Do you ever find yourself buying cantaloupe or honeydew or watermelon and never can finish it off and it just sits in your refrigerator and just goes bleh? Let me show you a way that is easy to do where you can dehydrate watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydew and use it to snack on the entire year. So I'm Darcy, I'm from the Purposeful Pantry, and I want to be your dehydrating BFF. And yes, in fact, you can dehydrate all the melons so that you can have delicious snacks all year long. So let me show you how to do it.
So how do you pick a watermelon that you want to use? Or any melon for that fact. You want something that has a good heft for its size. I mean, it weighs heavy. That means it's got a lot of juice on the inside of it and it's not flavorless and fleshy. For watermelons, you want to look for a really good field spot that's on the bottom that is like a darker color, like orange instead of white. That means, usually it means it's been there to allow to ripen more than if it's picked early and then left to ripen off the shell, off the vine. If you see here, what I'm doing is taking some of the pieces that I cut a little too thick and making them thinner because you want about 1/4 inch for your sizes. So here is tahini, which is a lime and chili flavored seasoning that's kind of spicy and good, and my kids love it. So I sprinkled a bunch on this tray, and then I put a tray in of just regular watermelon. And did you know a lot of what we consider cantaloupe in the United States is actually called muskmelon? Cantaloupe are French, and then there is another variety which we usually see, which is actually a muskmelon. It's very similar, so we call them cantaloupe too. Something to look for when you're purchasing cantaloupe is that you want webbing on the outside of it that is wide and large, not really dense, because it's a better product. Now, when you're watching me cut this, there are so many ways that you can cut these. You can take all of the flesh out beforehand. I end up doing that with another side of the watermelon. Cut it however you cut it. There is no one right way. And so just like with our watermelon, when we load these onto trays, you want to use some kind of barrier between your trays and your fruit. So I use these mesh sheets that are good for dehydrators that are food grade. Some of them are silicone and some of them, like this one, are plastic. And we're putting tahini on it as well. And just like with the cantaloupe, when you open your honeydew melon, you want to make sure that you take off all the skin, take out the seeds. What you hear me doing is also putting the rinds and things in a bowl in order to put into the compost pile, feed the worms, and feed our garden down the road.
Okay, so I have 2 trays of watermelon, 1 tray of cantaloupe, 1 tray of honeydew, and we're going to go ahead and get closed up, get our machine started. Time, we want this to go out as far as it's going to go because it's going to take a lot. Oh, come on. Doesn't flip right over. So we're going to give it a lot of time. It's not going to take 75 hours, but I'm not going to mess with it. I'm going to dry this at 135-ish and let it go. So let's get started. All right, here we go. After about 18 hours or so, we have our dried honeydew melon, cantaloupe, and watermelon, just like that. But here's the important part. Don't pick one up and assume that because it's bendy like this, that it's not done, because that's not going to tell you anything. You need to wait to let it cool off. So you can flip these over if it makes you happy. It's not going to shorten your drying time all that much. They probably didn't need a full 18 hours, but I just went ahead and gave them overnight to make sure they were good and dry. And here is some advice that I want to give you. If you have any way to put a drip tray at the bottom of your machine or some parchment paper to help with this, you'll see where the watermelon or the honeydew did drip. So this had some drippage. So it saves me from trying to clean the actual interior. I can just pull out the drip tray and clean the drip tray. Okay, so here we go. We've given these about 15 minutes to fully cool off before we test anything. especially for those things that are higher in sugar, because as those sugars are warm, they remain really pliable. So you want to give them plenty of time to cool off, like these all of these melon jerkies. Now you can see trying to just pop out this seed right here. Usually they will pop right out, but that one's kind of in there. They don't matter. You can eat them. They're not going to hurt you. You can pull them out ahead of time if you want, but we just leave them. But I did this jerky super thin this time because my family tended to like it. They like it crunchy. They don't like the thicker jerky kind. We like them thinner like this, but what you want is something that's going to break easily. Okay. So we have the same thing with the cantaloupe, just breaks in half easily. Same thing with the honeydew, breaks in half easily. Now, again, you can do these softer, just store them in the refrigerator for optimal storage to make sure that they don't go rancid. We're not talking about fats, Darcy. We're talking about moisture, to make sure they don't mold on you on the shelf or in your storage. Now let me give you one little tip about your melon jerky. If you prefer not to have it hard the way our family likes, and you like a little softer chew, but you want to make sure it's still shelf stable, then you can take some of this out and just put it on a plate and leave it to sit in the air for a little while. It's going to absorb the ambient moisture in your home pretty quickly so that you can have a softer chew. Okay, to store these, it's super easy. For me, it's always an airtight container. I prefer glass jars because I can see them. What I can see, we eat. If I put them in a Mylar bag or anything else like that I can't see what's inside of it, I tend to lose track of it. So basically, this is all we're going to do. We're just going to pop them right into a jar, just like this. I cut these a little thinner. I cut these just a little bit thinner than I normally do, and so they are breaking a little bit more as I pull them up. I could easily just let me show you real quick from here. These are our tahini version. I could have easily just rolled them off of the silicone instead of trying to peel them off, and they will break less. If you like thicker jerky, then do thicker jerky. It's just fine, okay? It's just that we prefer the really thin chippy things, so do what works for your family. So yes, I'm going to mix up the tahini and the regular because our family likes them both, and I can shake this up around to make up a little more room, just like this. So here's one that I cut a little bit thicker so that you can see how it looks. It's a little, see? Now here's our cantaloupe. You can see the tahini version and the regular version because we'll do both, because my kids will gobble this up either way. There you go. And a close-up of the honeydew, just like this. So we'll put our lids on. And if you live in a humid environment that you feel like you need to do this, especially if you were in and out of your jar all the time, popping in a moisture absorber will help control the moisture that is introduced every time you open your jar. We don't need it here because these are going to get eaten before that's even an issue. We'll go ahead and put our rings on because when you store dehydrated foods, even if you vacuum seal, you still need this ring to keep your jar airtight just in case. You can expect these to last anywhere from 6 to 9 to 12 months, maybe even longer. Fruits tend to not last quite as long as vegetables do, but this should give you nice tasty snacks anytime that you need them. And if you'd like to learn how to dehydrate other fruits during the summer when they're in abundance that you can live on all throughout the year, watch this right here where I show you how to dehydrate strawberries, cherries, and more. And until I see you again next time, remember, nevertheless, she preserved. Happy dehydrating, and I'll see you later.